Hey, it's Lou Pimber with Lou Pimber Speaks today. And today I have a very special guest. I can't wait to get to his story. Met him at my church group, by the way. Incredible story, incredible testimony. But I wanna bring him on, introduce him, have him share his story a little bit, and we'll get right to it. Welcome, Calder Hodge. How you doing today, bud?
Doing great, man. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Right on, Calder, man. I met you. I was very inspired by your story and how you've been dealing with the cards that were handed to you, right? I'm very
Yes, sir.
impressed with that. So Calder, and you're originally out of here in Texas?
Yes, sir. So I'm born and raised in Tomball, Texas. I've lived my whole life in the state of Texas. So yes, sir. I'm Texas born and raised.
Right on, man. I love it. And so Calder, how old are you, bud?
I am 20 years old.
20 years old. Okay, very good, very good. 20 years old. And what some people may not know about you is that you play ball. You're a quarterback.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I played quarterback at Tyler Junior College. I'm unsigned right now, but I finished up my first 2 years at Tyler.
I love it, man. So when I met you, one can't help notice, but you were born with some special talents, man. You were born with special talents, okay? You were born with the talent of having a very positive mindset, man, right?
Yes, sir.
Very
Yes,
positive
sir.
mindset, a very positive outlook on life. And we're gonna get to that, how that developed over time, right? So you were born with what's called tibular hemimelia.
Yes,
Tibular
sir.
hemimelia, and it's my understanding it's 1 out of 1,000,000 people are born with that. So think about that.
Yes, sir.
It's like
It's wild.
lottery. Tell me about, so for those of you who don't know, by the way, go ahead and describe it to us. What is that?
Yes, sir. So, basically what tibular hemimelia is it's a birth defect that means that you were born with a either no tibia or fibula bones or a shortened tibia and fibula bone, which means it also leads to you not having full knee growth, which means that I didn't have a kneecap or an ACL or any of my ligaments in my knee as well as anything going down below. We ended up deciding as a family, well, obviously I wasn't a part of that decision, I was a baby, but they decided that we should amputate my legs when I was 2 years old. So I've been an amputee since I was two.
So what was that experience like? Not for you, of course, but for your parents. Now you're like the fourth born, right? Fourth or fifth born, I think.
Yes, sir. I'm the youngest of four.
Youngest of four. Okay, so you're the fourth born, youngest of four, and you have older brothers and sisters, or all brothers?
They're all brothers. I got three older brothers.
That's incredible, man. And so, what was that like for your parents based on what you've been told when you were born? Describe that for those who, I'm kind of curious.
Yes, sir. So obviously, just as anything, it's scary at first. Obviously, when you have children, obviously I
Obviously.
don't, but I'm pretty sure that you do. You think of the world and you start to plan out your child's future before they're even here. And so when I popped out and I had that condition, obviously everything just kind of stops. You don't what your child's life is going to turn out to be. It's a very scary thing. I think that my parents had a lot of faith that I would turn out to be okay. And so that's why they were confident enough to move forward and to amputate my legs that young just to give me the best chance to have the best to have.
Got it. Can you describe just what that looked like for your mom and dad? What was that OMG moment for them? What did they see?
Yeah, so when I was from what I was told when I came out, they hand the baby to the mom for a second and literally they put me on her chest and they ripped me away, wrapped me up in a blanket, and they took my dad and they were running down the hallway and they were just unwrapping me and trying to show him and telling him like, hey, we don't know what happened, we don't know what's going on, trying to just keep my dad in the loop while keeping my mom calm. Well, obviously they just took her baby away, so she's not going to be as calm. But they ran all the tests on me to make sure that I was neurologically good and everything like that, and they came back and they were like, hey, it's just this. It's just the fibular hemimelia, and I also have digitized thumbs as well. And so it was just those two birth defects that came
Yeah.
with it. And there was a doctor there that I was told that looked my parents both in their eyes and said, "Look, this boy is gonna run. He's gonna play. He's gonna live a normal life. Like he will be okay." And so I think that brought them a lot of peace as they were moving through it.
that was so powerful to hear that from a doctor, man. I think that
Yes,
was
sir.
I mean, think about it, you're born and as a father, you see your baby and you wanna count the toes, count the limbs, right? Making and what did they find when you were born? What do they look like?
So I came out and I had my legs, but they were basically folded up, and it kinda how my brother Tyler described it, I looked like I had frog legs. And so I was born with an abnormal number of toes. I think I had 7 on one feet and 6 on the other foot, and so, it was I definitely had a lot of toes coming out. But yeah,
You were
so,
extra. You
it
were
was,
extra.
it was definitely a sight to see.
And what happened after that when they saw that? What went through the mind, or what has your father or mother shared with you? What went through their mind when they realized that?
I haven't gotten to hear a whole lot, I haven't dug in deep into, like, what they were feeling, but, I can take an educated guess that it was fear, like, you don't know what's gonna happen, like, we none of us know what the future is gonna hold for anybody, but obviously, when your child comes out with a birth defect, that is very scary, you don't know what his future is gonna look like or what he's gonna turn out to be, and so I think that was their first emotion, but then as I've grown and as I've went through the amputations, they kinda realized fast that I was gonna be okay.
So tell me about that. The doctor at some point recommended the amputation, and why was that?
Yeah, so basically from what I understand, there was two routes that we could take. It was either gonna be my parents make the decision for me and have my legs amputated while I was young, and that was gonna limit the risk of me having phantom pains and all the other things that come with later on amputation, or it was gonna be wait until I'm old enough to make the decision for myself. And so from what I was told, it was a lot of nights where my whole family was together and they were all having conversations about what would be best for me. Is it wait until I can make the decision and maybe get a little bit later of a start of being an amputee? Or was it do we do this procedure now and give him the best chance to learn how to live life as an amputee? And so they made that decision. And when I was 2 years old, I had both of my legs amputated and, I believe I had the amputations in July of 2007, and by October of 2007, I was in my first pair of prosthetics.
Wow, wow, wow. So, what was it like growing up for you, man? I'm sure there was some challenges, and you got 3 older brothers, man. What was that like for you guys?
Yeah, so growing up for me, it was awesome having those 3 older brothers that pushed me. They prepared me for things that I didn't even know I needed to be prepared for until I got way later on down the road, but they always treated me like a grown man. They always did, they knew that I had to be tough, growing up in a world where I do look different, where I do have to do things different, and so, I'm really blessed and grateful that I came into a family with 3 older brothers so that they could show me the way, show me how I needed to carry myself, and show me the confidence that I needed to walk through life with in the predicament that I'm in. Growing up, it was normal, just like anybody else. I was running around trying to keep up with my older brothers. Getting into trouble here and there, just
Yeah.
like every kid does. But all of my memories that I have from growing up are positive. My brothers, they all played sports, so I was always at the baseball park every weekend or a football game on Friday nights, and so I fell in love with sports really quickly, and that then led into me playing little league baseball, and then flag football. And when I played flag football, I fell in love with it, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do.
Let me to go back to your brothers, man. I'm sure maybe they have already, or at some point they will. They probably learn a lot from you as well.
Yes, sir.
You know, they learn a lot about just your positive outlook, your grateful attitude, and a can do just mentality, man. And I commend you for that. And I do believe the decision for that your parents made to amputate early was the best one because you didn't know any other way.
Yes, sir.
You
Yes, sir.
know,
I tell them all the time, I make jokes, obviously, but I am very grateful that they made the decision that they made. I know growing up, being involved with some foundations that I'm involved in, how much harder that people have it, that are amputees as well, but they had them amputated at a later stage in life. Like I'm blessed that I can walk around with my legs off, just on my nubs, which are what we call my, and that's something that, if I had them amputated later in life, I wouldn't be able to do. I wouldn't be able to weight bear on the end of them and run around with my niece and nephews. And, be able to take them off and in the future when I have children, be able to get down on their level to play with them. So, it's little things like that that just make
Yeah.
me so happy that my parents had the courage to make that decision.
That's incredible, man. Man, let me tell you, I don't think there are many people out there who would look at it from that point of view. So
Yes, sir.
most definitely, you have that on your side, man, for sure, brother. I have so much respect for that. Now, so you're growing up with your brothers; they're all athletes, and you say, "Well, I want to do that."
Yep. Yes,
What
sir.
was
So
that like? Did they say, "No, you can't," or "I dare you to do it"? Or how did that go?
no, so they never nobody in my family has ever told me I couldn't do anything that I wanted to do.
Okay.
Obviously, my brothers kept it real with me. They told me that, hey, if you want to do this, you're gonna have to work 10 times harder than we work just to get on the field, let alone be good at something. And so, when I told them I wanted to play baseball, we were out in the backyard, hitting balls. They were throwing to me. They're all 10 plus years older, so they're in high school while I'm, 4, 5. And so, they were always, making sure I was the toughest one out there, regardless of what I was doing. And then the only thing that really brought hesitation to everybody was when I said I wanted to play tackle football.
Well, mom
Me
was
and
thrilled.
my brother Me and my brother Tyler, we were trying to convince my mom for so long to let me play, and, I'm her baby, and so, she wasn't very, on board with that, and so my brother took me out to the backyard one day. I was in 5th grade, going into 5th grade, and he put me in my shoulder pads and my helmet that I had that they had bought for me, and he just hit me as hard as he could. He was an all-region defensive lineman, and he
Yeah.
laid me out, and I just popped back up. I was good. Like, I didn't cry, I didn't do anything like that. I was good, and I think that gave my parents the confidence, like, "Hey, if he can take that from a dude that's in high school, that's way older than him, then he's gonna be able to take those hits from kids that are his age."
Let me picture this for a second. When he did that, were you on your legs or your
Yes, sir. I
prosthetic?
was I was in my prosthetics. I was in my prosthetics. He did not hold back. He wanted to show 'em that I was gonna be tough enough to be able to go do it.
And when you put those on, do they kinda go through like a shoulder strap all the way up to the top, or how do they go on?
No, sir. So I'm just dry fit suction. So I literally just slide my leg in there and the suction creates a seal and that holds my leg on.
Got it. So you took that hit and did the legs stay on, or I'm
Yes,
sure you've
sir.
broken a few over time or what?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I've definitely broken a few since I started playing football and gotten onto a athletic running blade. But, I've never had an issue where my leg has popped off in the game or anything like that, and so, that's always kinda been the big question from everybody, all my teammates, all my coaches has been like, "Hey, is this, like, ever popped off before?" But, when you
No.
have the football pants on, they're so tight that creates an extra kind of, fit over the socket to just hold it on.
Okay, okay, got it. So now you're a kid, you're wanting to play football, you prove yourself by taking the hit by a stud brother of yours, and at which point did your parents say, "All right, let's put him on a team"? You started in football, what'd you start out in?
Yeah, so I started in flag football when I was in 2nd grade, and, I played that until 4th grade, and then going into 5th grade was when, we finally convinced my parents to let me play, and so my parents signed me up to play for the pee-wee team in Tomball, the Tomball Patriots, and, when I went to sign up, they were like, "Man, this kid's really small. You need to go lift weights,"
Yeah.
to a 4th grader. And so they, recommended us to a gym out there in Tomball, and I started weight training in 4th grade to try
In
to put
4th
on some
grade.
size. Yes, sir, in 4th grade. I was going, 2 to 3 times a week in 4th grade to the gym just so that I could, put on a little bit of size just to make them feel better to put me on the field. But that was my first year was in 5th grade. I played defensive end, and then in 6th grade, I played defensive end and quarterback, which quarterback's always been my first love, and I knew from the moment that I threw a football that I wanted to be the quarterback.
Wow, wow, wow. So tell me this, everyone has these perceived limitations about you, you know what I mean? A lot of people may have these perceived or preconceived limitations like, "Oh, he can't," or "He might," or what if, right? What was that like having to convince coaches, that, "Hey, I can actually do this, man, like, put me in, coach." What was that
Mhm.
like?
Yeah, it's a process just like anything else,
Yeah.
obviously, there are preconceived notions when you look at a person that's a double amputee and they wanna go do and play a sport that nobody's seen that before.
Yeah.
Nobody's seen a double amputee try to go play quarterback in football before. And so it was just a constant process of proving myself, proving my toughness, proving my ability to be able to go out there and execute on a field. And that's something that has showed up throughout my life is just being able to prove myself and showing my worth to each team that I've been on as I've grown up and as I've gotten older.
And that what's it like when you reach well, do you have them? I'm sure I think everyone does. Moments of quitting, does that ever come up, and how do you process that, man?
Yeah, I've had moments of doubt for sure. Like, am I gonna be able to do this? Am I gonna be able to perform at the level that I think I can perform at? You know, I think that goes through anybody's head that's human, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of your circumstances. But you know, I've always had this dream in my head since I was as far back as I could think. And so that kind of really keeps me grounded in knowing that, like, hey, I'm doing something that nobody's ever done before. And I know that as soon as I do it, then the next kid behind me is going to be able to do it even easier. And so that gives me a little bit more confidence going through the process and going through those moments where I do have doubt.
That's beautiful, man. Now, when you go through that doubt, is there you think of those people who you could potentially inspire in the future? Uh, does your family? How does your family deal with that with you?
My family just really lets me handle my stuff. They support me. They know that I'm a dude that I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna find a way always. And so whatever they have to do to help me achieve my dreams, they do. We talked about when I was going into high school, going to a different school than I was district to. You know, my all my brothers, they were public school kids and I'm trying to transfer to a charter school. And they were behind me 100%. And then when my head coach got fired at the charter school and we decided like, hey, we might need to move schools again. They were 100% behind me, you know, picked up our house and moved us closer to a private school so that I
Wow.
wouldn't have to drive as far. You know, my parents have made countless sacrifices taking me to camps in the summer, making sure that I could get in front of coaches, you know, and sometimes, you know, it's literally a 24-hour notice like, "Hey, I got asked to be here Saturday and it's Friday." And my parents, they find a way, and so I'm really grateful to them just because of the sacrifices that they have made.
You know, and sometimes showing up is half the battle because you're there's doubt sets in, the negativity in the world sets in, that little voice that sometimes people creeps in and says, "Hey, you're not gonna make it. They're not gonna let you. They're gonna say this about you. They're gonna talk about you." You know what I mean? And how do you process that? And when that happens, again, you go back to you knowing you're doing this for others as well as for yourself.
Yes, sir. You know, I'm a very hard-headed individual, and so, you know, it's really hard to get in there. It's really hard to get in my head and to truly lay a seed that can flourish of doubt. You know, I have so much confidence in myself. I have confidence in our Lord that He sent me on a path and that I'm on that path. And so, you know, when those things of doubt creep in, I know who I'm doing it for. I know why I'm doing it, and so it allows me to continue to push forward.
That's incredible, man. And you're so grateful for your parents, and you must have some incredible parents, incredible brothers, man, incredible brothers for that. So now you're where were you playing this last season, and what's going on today? What do you have going on?
Yeah, so I signed to play at Tyler Junior College out of high school. I spent the last 3 seasons there. I redshirted my freshman year, and then the last 2 years I was a backup. You know, and so after the season finished up in December, I moved back home. I moved back to Houston to train with my strength coaches here and my quarterback coach here. Just because I wanted to have an off season where I was around the people that knew me the best, so that I could be the most prepared that I've ever been going into my next situation, my next school, my next quarterback competition. So it's been really fun to be back home after being away for 3 years. You know, I'm a very big family dude, and so you know I've missed out on some times with the family while I was back at school, and so it's been nice to be back around everybody and see my family dang near every day.
Yeah.
You know, I just got done hanging out with my niece and nephew, and that's something that, you know, in the middle of or at the beginning of March, I wouldn't have been able to do if I was at a school right now. And so, you know, I've just really been enjoying the process of being back at home and being back around my family while also continuing to work towards my next opportunity.
You mentioned a very important point. You want to stay close to the people who can help shape you the best, right? Because I can totally get it. If you go somewhere else, that person doesn't know you, may not have the same belief that you have in yourself because now they're fighting their own limited beliefs about you, right? So you're staying close to the people who have been developing you. That's very smart of you, man. It's very smart of you to do that.
Yeah, and I wanted to when I was making this decision to come back home, it was more along the lines of, I had the opportunity to stay in Tyler this semester and to work out with the team and to continue to progress with the team, but I wasn't going to be a part of that team next season. And so I didn't want to take reps away from people that were going to be contributing to the team in Tyler, whereas I could come home and I could be with my strength coaches that have been with me since I was since I was in high school, with my quarterback coach has been with me since I was in 5th grade. People that know me, know how to coach me, know how to talk to me, and know what limitations I do have so that we can work on those things in an environment where it's not necessarily a competition right now. I'm not competing against anybody but myself in this phase of life. And so it's been really nice to kind of be in an environment where it is just me versus me. It's not a constant competition every day.
You know, pretty good points, man. It's important to have a coach in life, right? By the way, who is his quarterback coach? Let's give him some props. Let's put his name
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, yeah. JP Tillman, 5-star general. He does quarterback training in the Houston area. He's amazing. He's produced multiple Division 1 caliber quarterbacks. His big name guy right now is DJ Lagway, who just transferred from Florida to Baylor. And so, he is amazing. He's a dude that honestly, without him, I wouldn't be where I am. He's helped cultivate me as a quarterback to be the quarterback that I want to be. And so I'm so grateful that we've crossed paths in life and that he's been a big part of my.
So it's three very good points. So one is the right coaches in your life, right? And that includes your family. That includes those who want to coach you as well. Because the coach, he's not going to let you slack. He may see your perceived limitations, but he's got to demand more of you, right? So that's important, right? And
Yes,
then
sir.
number two is your belief, right? Your belief is strong, man. And then number three, you got to put in the reps. You're putting in the work. I heard a rumor you are on ESPN. Tell me about that.
Yes, sir. So, my life is crazy. The things that the Lord has brought for me have been amazing. I've gotten to experience some things that kids don't get to experience. I've been on ESPN. I've been on NFL Network. I've been flown out to the Detroit Lions training camp to go hang out with the team for a couple of days. And so I joke with my grandpa about it all the time. My life is not real. I get to do things that people dream about doing. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I'm really grateful to be able to put my story out there so that
Yeah.
people can tune in. I have a story that there's a camp that I work at in Southern Illinois called Nubability. And a couple years ago I was a coach and I met this mother, and her son was a double amputee as well. He was young. He was probably 4 or 5 when I first met him.
Okay.
And she said, "Go back to the YouTube videos that you're in, any news story, anything like that on YouTube, and go look at the comments." And for 4 years, she had commented under every video saying how her son was a double amputee and how my videos have brought her peace in knowing that he's gonna be able to do whatever he wants to do. And so now I have a relationship with that family and I get to watch him grow up. Last season he played his first year of tackle football at age 6, and
Nice.
so it's really awesome to see kind of that full circle moment of like, and it goes back to when I have doubt, understanding that like, hey, that next generation needs somebody to look at. The next child to come out with double amputations needs to see that somebody has, not listened to the doubts, has not listened to the perceived limitations that have been put on me, and I'm going to chase my dream, and it's so that they can go chase theirs when they get into my position.
Wow. So you talk a lot about your faith, man, and I'm with you on that, bro. I think it's important that we have faith, not only faith in ourselves, faith in our coaches, but faith in something beyond that, right? Tell me about your faith, but tell me about your relationship with Jesus. Tell me the relationship with you.
That is my foundation, my Lord and Savior. I wouldn't be able to do anything without him. Obviously, every opportunity that I've had in my life, everything that I went through is for him. To point myself and to point people back towards him. It's not about me. I know I talk about myself a lot, but it's not. It's about making heaven crowded, showing people the love and the grace that Jesus brings, and showing them the amazing power that our Lord has. We talked about it a little bit earlier. 1 in a million people have fibular hemimelia. He hand selected me to take on this walk. And so I'm just so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that he chose me because I don't know what I would have done if I was just came out normal. This gives me purpose in life.
Wow, that's inspiring, man. You're absolutely right. You're one in a million, and he picked the right guy because you know it's just a combination of things. I see so many people walking around, young people walking around with a chip on their shoulder, with this negative attitude. Yet they're perfectly healthy. They can read, write, they can walk, they're all these things, but they walk around with a bad attitude, man. What do you have? What message do you have for the young people today, young 20-year-olds or even older or younger, regarding that?
And I don't blame them. I used to be the same way. I used to walk around with anger in my heart. I used to walk around with hatred in my heart and with kind of a chip on my shoulder. Like, hey, I got to prove these people wrong. It was never about proving the power of Jesus right. It was never about proving myself right. It was about proving other people wrong. And this mindset switch has come along the past 3 or 4 years of just being positive, having gratitude for the situation that I'm in, and having gratitude for the journey I'm on. So I think for that 20, 21-year-old, these young adults coming up into the world, these young people, I would just say, one, I don't blame you. We're cultivated by the environment that we're in, and I feel like in our world right now, it's a very negative place. Negativity catches headlines. It's not
Yeah,
necessarily the positive things. And we talk about it. We talked about it at Man Up. If you look for positive things, you're gonna see it. If you look for negative things, you're gonna see it. And so in a world right now where everything is so negative, it's easy to see the negative and allow that to shape your mindset and shape the way that you walk around. But I would say just search for that positivity in the world. Search for those good things, because even though it's a really scary place right now and it is really negative out there, we can change that. One positive thought, one positive action every day can change somebody's day. It could change somebody's life. And so I think that I would just encourage people to go out there and be positive. Bring a good energy to every room that you walk in. You never know who you're gonna affect.
that's beautiful, man. Thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people need to hear that message, because you have every reason to continue in that negative mindset, but you chose to make a difference, man. Now, another random question. I'm sure that they ask you this all the time. When you're wearing your blades, are they called blades?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you have different ones.
Yes, sir. So I have 2 pairs. So I have my, walking around everyday pair, which I have a microprocessor knee on that, which, it's fun, I like to describe it as, those are my getting around legs, and
Yeah.
then, the blades are more of the sports car, you pull those out for certain events. That was something that, we made the decision to get me a pair of running blades when I was in 4th grade, playing flag football, just because it's really difficult to, run around and do explosive athletic movements in the walking knee and, just in the everyday legs. And so, I got my first pair of blades in 4th grade, and I, have progressed up each level of the blade. I've snapped a lot of them. I've got a lot of broken blades in my past, and I'm sure in my future as well.
Yeah.
But, those are awesome. I love having those and being able to wear those and, have those at my disposal because it does make me a better athlete, being able to do those explosive movements.
How do they calculate the size of those blades? How do they based on what?
Yeah, so I believe that they dictate the length of both the walking and the blades based off my spine length, based off my femur length, different measurements that they take.
Okay.
So on my walking legs, I'm about 6'4", which is about normal for what I would be if my legs were off. I come from a very tall family. And then on my running blades, just because there's a couple extra things in there just to kind of refrain it from breaking. I'm a little bit taller, so I'm about 6'5", 6'6" with my running blades.
Wow. Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. So that's very cool, man. So let me ask you this, but you're 20 years old. You're very, very young. You've endured a lot, and I can see where the confidence comes from, right? From having endured so much, and then having a positive mindset about it. What is your 3 to 5 year plan? What is your 3 to 5 year plan for you? Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?
Mm. Um, Yeah, in the next 3 to 5 years, obviously, I wanna finish up. I got 2 years left of college athletics eligibility, so I wanna finish that up, play somewhere for the next 2 years, and then after that, only the Lord knows. I'm not a big future planning person. I like to go where the Lord takes me, and so I don't like to plan too many things out. Obviously, before I'm 30, there are things that I want to do just as a man. I want to get married. I want to find my wife and continue to make positive impacts in my community as well as the world. However, the Lord wants to use me to do that. I'm open and I'm down for it.
I love it, man. Any special message you wanna, pass on to your parents while we're here?
Yeah, I love y'all. I tell y'all that every day. I try to make my love and appreciation for y'all felt every day. But I really do appreciate everything that y'all have done for me. All the sacrifices, all the hard decisions that y'all have had to make on my behalf. I'm so grateful that y'all had the strength to make them.
I'm so glad I met you, bud. I'm glad we were able to share your story. And I want people to watch this, share this, subscribe, like, pass on your name to people because you are literally a walking example of someone who just doesn't say no, who doesn't make excuses. In today's day and age, I'm sure for the beginning of time, people have made excuses, and so you're a great example. You're 20. You've got a lot of living left to do, a lot of
Yes, sir.
blades to break, and
Yes,
some
sir.
records, some records to make, and people to inspire. So, Calder, thank you so much for being here with me, but I really appreciate it. And may God continue to bless you and your family. And I look forward to seeing you. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is CalderQB15, and then that's where I'm most active. I'm about to get on there and start posting some more content, taking people behind the scenes into my life and what my workouts are like, what the process is like for a quarterback going through an off season unsigned. Those videos will be coming soon, and I hope that people will tune in.
Man, thank you so much, Calder. Again, my regards to your family, and may
Yes,
the
sir.
God continue to be blessing you in your future, bud. All right. Thank you
Yes,
guys.
sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.